All right, so rethinking humor. Why dark jokes might hold you back. We have to understand humor's impact. Humor does connect us, but the wrong joke can quickly become very isolating, especially if we're not surrounded by the people that we used to be surrounded by. Now, sometimes we leave the military, and one of the things that we do immediately is look for people that are very similar to us because it makes us feel welcomed. It makes us feel like maybe we aren't crazy. Maybe we aren't going through all this. We went through culture shock when we go into the military. But when we leave the military, we go through culture shock again. However, this time we're not surrounded by a bunch of peers who are going through it with us. When we go in, we are in boot camp. We're surrounded by 30 to 100 individuals that are going through that same culture shock with us. When we leave the military, most of us are going through it alone. Now, if you're fortunate enough to find other veterans that can help you and guide you, then that's even better on for you. But what do most of us resort to doing? We find something that makes us feel a little bit sane. And sometimes we do that by finding other veterans who maybe didn't integrate, maybe didn't transition that well. Maybe we join those Facebook groups with all the veterans that all they do is they love to just be in a kind of vacuum of negativity where all they kind of pass on and pass back and forth is a lot of that dark humor, a lot of that shit talking, a lot of that just mentality of being who we are, being stuck in our ways, and society is messed up and nobody gets us. And this woe is me mentality doesn't help anyone. So dark humor, especially from a military background, may not always be appropriate in all settings. Understand that as you get into the new world, you are growing up more and more and more. And you're going to be surrounded by people that grew up differently than you did because the formative years from 18 to 22, maybe even longer, maybe 24, maybe 30, even for some, you're being formed those years. And other people in society didn't get their formative years in the same time, right? So they didn't understand what it meant to have that dark humor. They don't understand what it means to joke around about stuff that may be taken seriously. Now, I want you guys to reflect on the time that you made a joke, dark, or maybe it was self deprecating, and it didn't land well. And maybe people looked at you differently. Maybe you were at work. Raise your hands if this is something that's happened to you and think about what the impact was. Think about how you felt when people looked at you differently, when maybe your boss even had to talk to you, and maybe your wife or your kids like didn't understand why you would say something so dark in a situation that was very serious, so grave. And it's a coping mechanism that we use as veterans to make sure that we can still handle the situation because when things happen, we are expecting ourselves and other people are expecting us to be able to react properly, respond properly, handle the situation. And one of the ways that we do that is by making something that's dark or making something that is the opposite. So turning something light into something dark, right? Turning something that is serious and trying to make light of it. That's what I was trying to say. Because if it's light, then you can still maneuver, you can still respond, you can still have all your kind of senses about you and handle the situation. But we have to understand that the room that we're in, the situation we're in, the people we're surrounded by aren't like that. They can respond appropriately without having to turn something dark like that. The thin line, humor versus harm. So dark jokes walk a fine line between being humorous and offensive. The context is crucial. Who you are surrounded by is crucial, particularly when transitioning from military to civilian life. When I got out, I went to work for a nonprofit where I was surrounded by some veterans, but those veterans were a little bit different than me. They had been out much longer. They also weren't in the same situations that I was in. My dark humor was much, much darker. And I had to have a conversation with one of my leaders, one of my bosses, that I had to understand that the situation doesn't call for that. Alex, you have your hand raised?
I was just, yeah,
Oh,
because you said dark humor thing. So
oh, gotcha. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Sometimes we make jokes on serious matters to try and trivialize it, but it actually needs sensitivity. We need to make sure that we are sensitive to people around us because this is the new society that we're in. Like, this is our world. And we have to understand that. We have to assess how all of our humor has to match the values that you live by now, especially in the new diverse civilian settings that we have. Now, in the workplace, your values have to be respectful and inclusive, especially if you are trying to get promoted. If you're trying to fit in with your peers and you're trying to show that you are a team player, because Maybe going to the bar and having a few drinks, maybe some dark humor can fit into those situations. But even then, test the waters. Don't be the one that it's crude all the time. If you want to make a joke, that's fine. But understand that other people typically don't do that. That is not their norm. And it can be the norm for us. We'll make something that is serious unserious by making fun of it, even if it's about ourselves. Self-deprecating humor is very much similar to dark humor because you're still trying to make something that is heavy and serious into something light by making fun of it, by making it not as serious. You have to question whether your humor could come off as disrespectful in a professional environment, even if you're at the bar. Your boss might be with you, but we all know that we are always under observation. That's something that I learned a long time ago in the Marine Corps Scout Sniper community. That you are always under observation. People will always take what you say and find a way to change it if it doesn't serve their purposes. And I'm not saying that people are out to get you. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you have to understand if someone is talking about something serious, maybe they're talking about problems at home or their wives or their kids or something at work, they are opening up. They're deciding to be a little bit vulnerable. And if you decide to use dark humor, you are coming off as offensive. You are coming off as disrespectful. You're coming off as inconsiderate. And maybe that's not how you feel like you want to come off, but that's how it comes off, especially if it's someone that doesn't know you that way. And even around other veterans, when we surround ourselves only with veterans and that's all we do you really think that you'll be able to get rid of that bad habit or tame it? You won't. It gets harder and harder if that's all you surround yourself with. That's why we shouldn't live just in a vacuum in this echo chamber of finding people that are very, very similar to us and isolated from the rest of the world. It doesn't work that way. We want to make sure we thrive in society. Remember, our goal is to have success after service in society. We need to make sure that that is the end goal because we want to make sure that we thrive in every single environment that we are in. Personal relationships and humor. Good relationships rely on understanding and respect. A joke that's too dark might hurt more than it amuses. Show of hands, being honest here, has anyone ever said a joke that didn't land well with their partner, with a loved one, with a mom, with a dad? And then they have to explain it. Then they have to feel weird about it. Then maybe they feel like the family dinner's ruined. Then people look at you differently. Then no one wants to talk to you. For me, that's happened. I see Alex raising her hand. It's happened a lot, especially when I was still in. I would come home on Christmas or leave, and that's just my mentality. But I had to work on it. I had to actively work on it to understand that that is not the right way to be because you have to take things seriously at times. You have to think about whether your choice of humor is building bridges or walls that close off people to you. Military humor might not always translate well in personal relationships outside of that context. Like you're not in anymore, right? We have to understand that we have to live in this world that we're in now and realize that that dark humor not only holds us back, but it lets other people see us in the light that we don't want to be seen in. The psychology behind dark humor. So in the military, dark humor often helps cope with difficult situations. Absolutely it does. But outside in the world, it might not serve you or others as well. It's a tool for some, but a barrier for others. Reflect on what your preferences for dark humor reveals about your coping mechanism. Transitioning means finding new ways to deal with stress and hardships, ones that fit your current life phase. We are all working on transitioning ourselves out, whether it's been 1 year, 10 years, whether you're still in, whether you've been out for 20 years. It's a transition. There's no timeline for it. So understanding that if we have been using dark humor for years about the reason why you're never getting a job, or oh well, I'm not going to get that promotion because so and so, he's his nephew, or and I'm not gonna make examples of dark humor because that's not the point of today. You guys all know what the dark humor kind of jokes that we can say about that is. The point is that when you try and make fun or when you make the joke about someone or something and you don't take it seriously, you're not only taking it and making it offensive for other people, but you're taking away the seriousness away from yourself. Because if you tell yourself that you're never going to get promoted because so and so is his nephew and he's always doing stuff to get promoted or whatever, then you're going to give yourself this idea that you're never going to be promoted and you're not going to try. And if you're not trying, you're going to get stuck. And if you're stuck, you're going to be miserable. And if you're miserable, you're going to blame the world, blame everybody else besides yourself without realizing that maybe you didn't get promoted because you made this crude and insensitive joke about the boss's wife or about someone at your workplace. And maybe someone has a family member that's dealing with something that you made a joke about. People remember these things. People remember these things. Loved ones as well. Maybe you make a joke and before you know it, like you have people that don't reach out to you anymore because you're always the one that is using dark humor to cope. People call you and maybe they want to be serious about something and they remember that you said something that really offended them. We have to rethink our humor and find like a good balance for it. The shift you from using humor defensively to using it to connect requires recognizing its power and its impact. There's a whole world of humor out there that doesn't rely on darkness or insensitivity. Exploring that can enrich your interactions. It'll help you challenge yourself to avoid dark jokes. I want you guys to challenge yourself, excuse me, to avoid dark jokes for a week. Observe any changes in how people respond to you and how you feel. Like actively work on not being self-deprecating, actively work on not using dark humor, actively work on trying to be more positive and bring more positive light to other people. I promise you, you guys doing that is going to not only change your dynamic with the world, but it'll change how you see yourself. Moving forward, humor that lifts. I want you guys to strive for humor that brings people together, celebrates our shared humanity and lifts spirits. Reflect on moments when humor made a positive impact on you or those around you. How can you create more of those moments? That's what we're aiming for. As you think about that and you navigate the path forward, remember that humor is a reflection of your perspective. If you feel hopeless, if you feel negative, if you feel like the world is out to get you, if you feel like you can never get ahead in life, that's the type of humor you're going to have. You have to make sure that your perspective is shifting so you don't think that way and then you reflect that in your humor. I want it to be something that includes respect and appreciates the diverse world that we live in. At this point, we're going to do a Q&A. So would anyone like to do a Q&A or share anything? And Oliver would like to say hi to everybody real quick.
Hi.
You want to put these on?
Hi,
Please
Oliver.
do me a favor. Everyone can unmute themselves and say hi to Oliver. Hi.
Hey, Oliver.
Hey,
Hey,
buddy.
Oliver. What's up, buddy?
Oliver, take the passy out so you can say hi and smile.
Both of you. Oh, okay.
Hi,
Hi.
Oliver. Oh,
You want to say hi again? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. All right. Can you go over there and I'll be right there? All right. Thank you.
He's
My
so
apologies.
adorable. You're doing amazing.
He's
Thank you.
he's the real boss.
Yeah.
He is.
That's
runs the
to
show.
say one more note. As kids get older, we all know that they're sponges. And if you use dark humor, you're going to pass that on to your kid. If you self-deprecate, if you make jokes about yourself or about life or about the situation or about just anything in life, your kids listen. They take everything in. And wouldn't it be better if we can be positive to make sure that we are passing on good qualities to our children instead of, I was playing with the light, instead of passing off qualities that then they have to deal with and they have to go to therapy for, especially if we come from parents who gave that to us. And we know that. We remember that. We are in a different generation. We have to break that generational curse. We have to break the generational problems that we've had and make sure that we don't pass those off to our kids. Is this hitting home with anybody? Is this resonating with
yes,
anybody?
it is. It
Yes,
is
it is.
because
Yes, it is.
my late husband and I did pass it on to our kids, and my youngest two are doing it in their JROTC class, in their JROTC flights, and it's how they were able to go ahead and deal. Sweetheart, I'm on a call. Okay. Could you please shut my door, please? Thank you, dear. Air, stop. Don't throw a pencil at her.
About?
Love you too.
Hi.
But yeah.
Hi.
Thank you for
Hello
sharing,
again.
Alex.
Yeah,
I
that was
definitely passed
actually
it on to my 11-year-old.
my
Yeah.
both. When and you'll hear me. I'll be very. May I please be well. It may not be appropriate, so no, I'm not going to in this form though.
This is a safe space to share. I think everyone can agree with that.
I'll refer to him as my late husband. He went with the 22. He's part of the 22 club, if y'all catch that.
I'm very sorry to hear that, Alex. You and I will definitely have conversations about that.
Yeah, no.
Thank you for sharing.
But that's why that humor. Yeah.
I understand, and thank you for sharing. That's definitely something that we've talked about, and we will talk further about. So I appreciate sharing that and opening up a little bit. And that is you testing the waters right here, right now. And we talked about this on our call about testing the waters and seeing that it is safe and that you can be vulnerable. So what are you doing, buddy? Sorry. Here. Here's the cool one. I swear this never happens.
It really doesn't ever.
So would anyone else like to share, comment, ask a question, share anything? We're gonna go for a little bit longer since the presentation was over shorter than I thought. Anyone?
I mean, I share a lot of dark humor about Steven's dad because that's kind of like the relationship that him and I had was built on dark humor. And now I realize, now that he's passed, kind of like a little cry for help that we missed.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, she said one joke that was like it was Father's Day, and she said at least you get to spend Father's Day with your dad, and you know he's right here. So kind of like a that.
So one thing I'm gonna jump in real quick, Stephen. So one thing that we can do to translate dark humor is to understand where it's coming from and then find a way to rephrase it so it is positive. Like at least you do get to have your dad right there with you. Like
Right.
I think dark humor comes from sometimes a place where we're trying to say something and we just say it differently.
Kind of the way
Right?
sometimes we cope with just different situations too. It's just
Absolutely.
we have to change our approach because it can be dark in a negative way. You know, we don't want it to be negative. We want to refrain from dark humor because it could put us
Yes.
in a lot of negative situations. And
I think the number one reason why I actively work on refraining from dark humor is because it affects everything else in my life. My mindset, my perspective of the day, how I feel inside, how I emotionally feel. Like it changes the dynamic because think about it, words mean something. And if we're saying something out loud, like our body is going to react to it. So if we're saying something, our body's going to react appropriately to it, meaning that maybe we start to feel a little bit down. Maybe we don't end up going to the gym. Maybe we do get that, drive through cheeseburger just to feel momentarily better because we start feeling angry about something or we start to feel sorry for ourselves. And we all know that we're here to be fighter jets and not be hot air balloons. And the way that we do that is by being very, very intentional with everything. And we're going to have slip ups. It's going to happen. But the whole point is that when we have these slip ups of emotions, we find a way to center ourselves, bring ourselves back, use the chats, use the Facebook group, do the workouts, have a good meal, get some sleep, do your nighttime routine, your sleep time routine. We're all working very hard. All of us here. I see you guys doing the work. I get notified every single time that you guys finish a workout on my Apple Watch. I see when Gary does his workouts. I see when he decides to do his double workouts. I see that Carlos is doing his workouts late at night, but he's doing them. I see when Conroy has been hitting the workouts and that tells me that he's hitting PRs. I see when Eric creates time for himself to do them. I see when Malone gets her stuff done. I see how Lisa, I saw your post earlier and that motivated me so much. It made me happy. And Roberto, don't even get me started. Roberto's probably at the gym right now. Am I right, Roberto? He's probably at the gym because he hits the gym around this time. And he's probably at the gym right now getting after it. And Cole is already deciding to take control of his life because he just got out and he's already deciding to. He's in the bath. He's in the bathroom. He said at the gym, right? In the bathroom at the gym. And Steven and Savannah, they joined together as a couple to actually make an impact in each other's lives. And Alex, you just joined today and you're already here making an impact in your life. So like we're all working towards something. And all of that matters because when you are working towards something, you're going to avoid the dark humor. You're going to avoid the self-deprecation. You're not going to feel sorry for yourself. And before you know it, you haven't done it in a while. So the challenge is that this week, every time that you catch yourself using dark humor, self-deprecating, trying to turn the situation from something that is either negative into something light by making fun of it, or the other way around, something that's dark into something light by trying to make light of it and not taking it seriously, actively change your mindset, literally say it out loud, the opposite. So say something positive and then see how you feel by the end of the week. And as you do this, if you have a moment when you notice it during this week, I want you guys to make a post about it in the Facebook group. I encourage all you guys to do this because documenting your growth means something. We have to have evidence that we are changing. We have to have evidence that we are improving. We have to have evidence because evidence provides confidence. When we have confidence, well, we can do so much more. Am I right or am I right?
100% right.
Alex said, the human mind, let me read these comments. Sorry. I have a big screen, so I have to like look all over the place.
Oh, it's exactly right.
Human mind cannot differentiate between a self-deprecating joke or negative self-talk. Absolutely. You are 100% right, Alex. Thank you for sharing that.
You know, self-deprecating humor also tells others what they should think of you.
Yes, absolutely. You're 100% right, Eric. What are your thoughts on this?
So I grew up with a very competent, but also very self-deprecating father. And he has never achieved his potential because he sees himself as the dummy. He's been a maintenance mechanic for decades. Like this guy's outsmarting robots on the assembly line so he can get them fixed, making the robot think one thing while he does another. And I'm like, first of all, I probably couldn't load the parts in the robot, right? But
Yeah.
he always talks down on
Yeah, I'll be
himself,
right up.
always. And that's how he's raised. You know, he was raised in a real verbally abusive home, and I wasn't. And so I have a much better opportunity than my father did. But I learned from him by watching him what self-deprecating humor can do. You know, and when I make a joke about the situation, okay, so you guys know I say it all the time. I go on endlessly about it, but I'm a contractor, right? And so the one thing about contracting that isn't necessarily unique from other careers, but it's unique in its frequency is that everything goes wrong all the time. Like always, right? You find a great subcontractor and then he falls off a ladder and breaks his arm. Like that's just an average day. Okay. And so when something happens, I blend a little dark humor with Jocko Willings. I like Jocko a lot. And so when something bad happens, Jocko said, always say good, because you're going to learn something from it. And so I'll kind of twist a little dark humor. Good. I was afraid things were going to go right today. Like I'll say that to people on the job, people laugh at that. But if I was to say, well, of course it happened to me, why wouldn't it happen to me? People don't respond to that very well. But if you make a positive, even if it's a dark positive, I feel like that has its place, but it can't just be dark. It can't just be, well, of course this happened. It's my job. This always happens to me. The universe is out to get me. People don't respond to that well.
That is
They
a
shouldn't
perfect
respond to that
example.
well. We shouldn't even say that type of thing. But to say something like, and there's a little, there's not any kind of like, I don't talk about anything too dark on the job, but I will say, oh, good. I was afraid today was going to go flawlessly, because that's kind of funny and it acknowledges the situation for what it is. It sucks, but it's not going to suck forever. So let's make some light of it and then move on. But in something more serious, I wouldn't ever make a joke like that.
I think that is a perfect example of using humor the right way. I think that is a great example. Thank you, Eric, for sharing that.
No.
Well, guys, we're going to wrap up today. I think that was a great place to stop. And Oliver needs attention. You want to say bye to everybody? Okay, here.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for
Bye,
joining.
man.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah. Thanks for keeping your daddy in line.
Bye.
Yeah, he's the CEO.
Wave.
That's right. He's the
Bye,
boss
Oliver.
man for sure.
I think it's time to get him a pair of headphones that he can walk around. And when Dad puts on his headphones, it's time for him to put on his.
Where's your microphone?
See,
at?
what everybody doesn't know is he's actually got a microphone. He's been telling Daddy what to say the whole time.
He has one. It's somewhere around
Yeah.
here. Where'd you put your microphone? It's right there. Grab your microphone.
Yeah, see, told you.
Grab the microphone. Here, bring it over here. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. I apologize for the disruptions, but you know what? That's life. And honestly, like,
Hey, that's part of
nothing wrong
life.
with that
I don't
happening.
apologize for life.
Absolutely. We have to be flexible. We have to be able to adjust. And you want to bring the microphone over here? Show me your microphone. Show him. You want to talk on the microphone?
Nice
Oh,
microphone.
yeah.
Wow.
That's a good one.
All right, guys. Thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. We have check-ins on Saturday. I want to see some amazing check-ins, and it'll be absolutely great. Thank you guys all. Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Good night, guys.
All right.